Hello everyone. We are now live on our Excel for project managers. First up in the chat session, just tell me if you can hear me nice and clear. Otherwise, I'm gonna just adjust my mic quickly. Boy, I have a very exciting session for you today. I am super excited. I could barely sleep last night, and I actually during the weekends on Fridays and Saturdays. Some of you already know that we have twins, a boy and girl. They're about 11 years old, so they're still not teens yet. So what we do is they're very close with us, and on Friday I usually sleep with one of them, and then on Saturday the other, and they also, the other kid goes and sleeps with mom, so they get to have a little bit of alone time with us and talk or tell stories. And I was sleeping with my daughter right next to me last night, and she was like, every now and then she would say, "Oh daddy, why are you twisting and turning, why couldn't you sleep?" And I told her, and I'm super excited about this session today. So I could see from your chat sessions that everybody can hear it nice and clear. Thank you so much, so much for tuning in. I know it's different times around the world. For me in New Zealand, it's 4 a.m. in the morning, a little too early for my cup of coffee, but let's get started. Um, in the chat, just tell me where you're tuning in from and what you're drinking. So we could have a little bit of banter before we kickstart our session for the day. Somebody tuned in from Hong Kong at 12 a.m. Man, I really appreciate your enthusiasm for this. Thank you so much. We got people from Orlando, Portugal, Belgium, Canada, Mumbai, Austin, Texas, and they're having coffee. Vicky is having the best drink of all, water. That's cool. And quite a few people are from the other side of US, so it's quite early for them, and they're having their morning coffees. And it is always good to just have a view of all of you. And you know Ali Khan is having curd rice, man. That is so good. Yeah. Let's kick start now. Okay. What I have for you is just a bunch of slides that will kind of give you a preview of what we are gonna cover, and then we will go and jump into Excel. So here, let me change my screen very quickly and get into that presentation. So welcome officially to the Excel for project managers. In case you have any voice issues, I did ask you earlier, and most people could hear it nice and well. So if you are having some audio issues, probably grab a pair of earphones or something so you could enjoy the session as well. And so this is Excel for project managers. And the idea is to introduce and showcase some of the advanced concepts that will help you as a project manager simplify your life. I'm going to use a traditional project management methodology as an example, but the ideas that you learn here can be applied for agile project management or other types of project managements, and various industries as well. It doesn't have to be IT or anything. I come from a heavy IT background, so the my experience in project management is from that backdrop, and I tend to use those words. But if you are in construction or finance or whatever else, you can still use these ideas. So what are these 4 topics that we are going to cover today? Well, we are going to cover number 1, how to prepare a project plan or a Gantt chart. So the one that I showed you on the screen, this is the exact Gantt chart that we are going to construct in this live stream. This, I imagine, would take up a bulk of our time because this kind of forms the core of several Excel techniques that will help you in the long run. You may not need to make a Gantt charts directly because there are automated tools available nowadays to do this. But the ideas of conditional formatting, laying out data, and enabling various things is very powerful, and it goes a long way. And number two is various types of progress charts. Now I have got a collection that I'm showing on the slide here, but for the sake of simplicity and helping everyone, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just do a poll before we get into this topic, and most likely pick up the one that most of you want to see. But the names are, this is a traffic light, that is a kind of a weird donut progress chart, and this is a thermometer chart. So we will go for that. If nothing works, I'm just gonna pick something random and then just make that. And the third one is a type of a tracker for keeping track of things. In a project, there's usually a lot of issues or risks or deliverables or items and whatever checklists. So a generic tracker technique using various Excel ideas. And then finally bringing all of these together so you could create a nice interactive project dashboard. This is going to be our conclusion. So stay tuned throughout the session because you are gonna really love this this particular aspect where everything that we have built so far in the first three topics kind of comes together to make up for this. I just want to give a big thanks to our Kwapa man for a super sticker. Thank you so much. And now let's go and just let me introduce three things before we begin. How do you download the data files, any questions, and supers? The file for both blank dataset as well as completed workbook is already uploaded in the video description. So please, in YouTube, just look down in the video description. There is a link that I put in about 10-15 minutes ago, and just use that to grab the files. If you want to follow along, I recommend that you download the blank file and use that to follow the session. And the completed workbook is already put there because I've created both, as that would be way easier than for those of you who tune in to wait for the files to appear in your in the YouTube description. So I put both of them, but at the end of the stream, I will add the third file, which is the one that I'm building through the session. So you have a reference point as well. So please download the files in the video description if you would like to follow along. It's not necessary to follow along. You can just watch me do the stuff and take some notes and go back and implement them with your data. But those of you who would like to have a reference thing, that's there. And the second one, please ask me heaps of questions. I may not know the answers, but I love the interaction. I love that energy. So give me those questions in the comments box, but any questions, start them with Q so that I can spot them among all the heaps of things that are appearing in the chat window. And let's stay on the topic. I know you may want to get answers to questions on other aspects of Excel, but it is super helpful for all of us if we stick to the topic on the hand, which is project management aspects of Excel, so that I can help everybody most. And if you do ask a question, please do not repeat that because that will kind of clutter the chat window. So if you ask a question and I'm not able to answer it immediately, you can circle back to that after 10-15 minutes, but don't just copy post these things. All right. The big thanks to our super stickers that are coming from Andrew, Lena, Ross, and ATerrell5595. Thank you so much for your kind support to chandu.org and cheering this live stream. It is so good to have quite a few people who come up again and again. Cassandra says, "Hi teacher, good to be in your course again." Thank you so much, Cassandra. I'm glad you're choosing to take some time off your day and join me. And the third and most important thing, as you have already seen, if you would like to support the live stream, feel free to give me a super chat or a super sticker. In the chat window, you would see a dollar button or something, and you could use that to give me a shout out or something. So that is it for now. I can't really wait to begin. And you know how I like to start, right? Let's start with a simple joke. What does the project manager say to his team at the start of a new project? Any guesses? Well, even if you guess, you can't talk back, so I'm going to go to the next slide. I can't wait to begin. All right, let's get into the Excel thing now. So this is the files page that you would have gone to if you would like to download, and the blank data file is there. Completed workbook is also there. So feel free to grab whichever one that you want to use, and that page will be live for some time. So you can go back to that, bookmark it, and go back. So this is my blank file that I am gonna use to build the thing. I'm just gonna turn off the ticker so we can resume. And so already we have some questions. So somebody's asking, what version of Excel does this require? You can use pretty much any version of Excel as long as you are on the modern side of it. So probably 2013 plus is good. If you have 365, that is better, because I'm using certain formulas as part of the dashboard to add the dynamic array formulas. But if you don't have that, you could use other methods to do that. Right, I seem to be having a little bit of throat issues. I'm just gonna get some quick drink of hot water. And Hem Sundar says, is it interactive dashboard? Yes, it is interactive. So you would notice that when you have downloaded the file, but in case you can't, that's fine. All right, I will this is the blank file, but as I said, the completed file is also provided to you. So feel free to use that if you would like to just kind of look at what I'm explaining and then reverse engineer from that file to see where everything is, and connect those dots. So those it has the same data and issue tabs, but it does also have Gantt chart, progress charts, dashboard, and calculation tabs. Now, if you are downloading this, you need to be using Excel 365 to be able to use that, because the formulas here are built on 365. But yeah, as I said, it's not super necessary to have 365 for some of these things to happen. It's just that I choose to use those formulas because they are easy. Anyhow, let's go back and let's start with our Gantt chart. Just a big quick shout out to Mike for a super sticker as well. And Emery says, will you create a critical path line? Now, there are some limitations when it comes to using Excel for project Gantt charts. One of them is you are not able to make critical paths or dependency type of things in a very elegant or a simplified manner, just like in MS Project or other project management tools. I know it is possible, but I probably wouldn't do it because it's way too much of a hassle for us to do it like that. So I'm not going to show that. But feel free to research up on the necessary formulas and take what I provided and use that to add that. All right, and I just want to say thanks to Bharat as well for the super sticker. Okay, let's get into the stuff. I'll come back and show my face and look at the comments in another 10-15 minutes. But for now, I am just gonna focus on Excel. So here I got my data for the blank project management thing, and what we are what we need as a bare minimum when you are thinking about any kind of project planning or dashboard reporting within Excel is you need to have a bunch of people data and the activities that they are doing, because that's what a project essentially is, right? A set of people coming together to achieve an objective. So here I've got some people and the team they belong to. These people are they're just 10 people, and then they belong to one of the two teams, Bahu and Bala, and then there are a bunch of activities that they are doing. So the activities are all just very simply named as activity 001, 2, 3, 4, like that, all the way up to 100. And they are broken into a category of the project management. So the project, so they could be design of the project or deployment, testing, development, or requirements, whatever. You could put anything here, phase one, phase two, like that. And the owner is the person who is going to do that task. The owner is the one that is already listed in the person's thing. And there is a start date, an end date, and a percentage done information. This is basically your input data. Same for issue tracker as well. We could use the same template for tracking risks or other kind of things as well. But in the issue tracker, I got some issues that are randomly made up. They are assigned to a person and they have a priority, high priority or low priority, but you could have multiple levels of priority as well. And there is a date on which that issue is opened, and if the issue is closed, then there is a closing date as well. As you could see, quite a few of issues have no closing date. So this is the basic set of information. Now for our first part, we are going to construct a Gantt chart from our activity data. A quick note on the data itself, I have set everything as table because that way, even if you are using your own organizational data, you can use Power Query to bring in the data and have those names set up so that you can kind of connect those dots with what I'm teaching you today. So we have your people data in the people table, and then this is activities table, and that is my issues table. Now certain aspects of the screen are hard to zoom, so I'm not gonna bother about zooming them until there is a specific need to it. But the spreadsheet aspect, I will try to zoom in as much as possible, and we will do it like that. So we have your activities here, and the way we can make a Gantt chart from this is there are multiple ways, and some of which I have well documented on my website, and you could probably find on other places or on YouTube as well. So the one that I'm going to show you is quite a bit interesting because I find that this method allows you to work with the data from your own organizations as well. So this method is to use pivot tables to build a Gantt chart. So it's quite interesting and a fun way to take your data and build stuff from that. So let's take a look at that. So we go here, we select any cell and then click on summarize with pivot table. Now before we go into the pivot table itself, let's just establish some sort of relationships between table if they're not already there. The person here is the same person there. Same with the issues as well. Here the person name is the same as here. So we want to kind of link these tables to build a simple relationship model. So I can use my data ribbon relationships and just make a new relationship and say that activities owner is same as people person. Now, the very first time you do this, what Excel does is it builds a in-memory thing called data model, which is then used as a default option when you're constructing pivot tables, etc., so that you can kind of combine data from two tables to do this. So the next one is issues assigned to is same as people person. These are very simple relationships, and in the final completed workbook that is already set up, so you can go and examine the same thing there in case you would like to see the exact screen images there. So once this is done, I can then go to a new worksheet inside this. I'm just going to call this as calculations. This is where all the number crunching shall happen for our Gantt charts and whatever may be the case. And here I will just say insert a pivot table. Now, when you do this on a blank sheet, because there is no data to work with, what Excel does is it will say, oh, you got a blank sheet here. I'm just going to use the table relationship model that you have set up for creating this pivot table. So it will use the data model, and then it will give you those table fields. So all the tables are shown on the side. Let's just drag this here so we can kind of see everything together. I got my activities, issues, and people. Now from here, what I will do is, this is a Gantt chart, so we are gonna just look at activities, and then we will say category. These are my categories, and then all the activities underneath that. So it will give you a listing of all the activities in each category, right? And then we will say, take the start date and add it to the values. So it will, by default, it should give you a count. Now I'll right click and then say summarize this by minimum, so that I can get the earliest start date of each activity. All right. At this level, because each activity has only one start date, it will by default be the start date. But this minimum concept will help us for identifying the group level dates as well. We'll put the end date as well. Right click, summarize, and then select maximum. So the maximum end date will come up. Okay. So once these two are done, then I can go to my table design, and then I'll change this to an outline format, so that there is like two levels rather than everything in one column, and then just add subtotals on the top, so that I can see for each category what is the earliest we could start that and what is the latest we could finish that. Okay, because the latest we could finish would be whatever the maximum date of that group. So so that is coming up there. All right, so this is then showing me all of this. Finally, once this is there, what I will do is I will first go to category, and then I will say sort on the ascending order of start date, so that each grouping itself is sorted by the ascending order, so that the first category will be there like that. This part is done. We will then repeat the same for activities. Activities also should be sorted by early start date, so that these activities are shown in the chronological order. So that now that we took our table and then kind of turned this into a hierarchical format where everything is shown in groups, I can then go and build my Gantt chart. So I'll add a new worksheet. This is what I'll call as Gantt chart. We'll come back here. We will add a team level drill down option as well, just while we are doing. So I can right click on the team, add it as a slicer, so that I'm looking at either everybody's activities, or I can get into a single team and then see what are the activities that they're responsible for and where they are. All right. So this is a fun way to kind of explore the activities and see that in real situation. So then I'll cut this slicer, Control X. I'll move it to my output worksheet here. Let's paste that there. And so that I can interact with this and then see the outputs here while the calculation is happening in the worksheet that is separate in a different screen. Okay, so far so good. Now what we will do is we will quickly disable any grand totals from the pivot, so that it's just showing me the activities, and then we will come back here, clear the slicers so that everything is shown, and just select the entire thing. Control C, select your entire pivot table. There are some additional approaches that you could do, but because I'm trying to do everything in a limited amount of time, I'm showing you the easier version of doing this. But in real life, you may not want to directly copy it like this. You may want to think, well, how far down my pivot table would really go and how many activities do I want to show in my final Gantt chart, and accordingly you want to decide all of that. So we'll copy that and then we come here, right click and paste it as a link. Okay. A link means it is actually not real data. Whatever data here is linked back to my pivot table. You may be tempted to use the get pivot data or the cube formulas as well, but I find that this is good enough. It will give you what you need. Okay. So once this is done, I'll just insert a few more rows on the top just so we have some wiggle room on the top to do things. The first thing that I want to do is select everything, and anytime there is a 0, that means the value in the backend is blank. So I don't want to show the 0 here. I just want to turn it off. So we'll select everything, right click, format cells, and from here go to custom, and here we want to type a special code. Now let me just enable this and show you what I'm typing there. So if I, for example, disable everything, I don't want to show anything, but the values need to be there. I can use these 3 semicolons, and when you click OK, the values are gone, like they're not there, but they are actually in the cell, so you can do your sums and counts and all sorts of stuff again. Now let's go and change this to a code that will only show me the value if it is not 0. So this is, we could simply say general. There are a couple of ways to do it. What I will do is I'll just say equal to 0 within the square brackets. Then I immediately say semicolon, otherwise general. Let's try this, otherwise I'll have to, no, it doesn't work. I'll have to go and copy what I did also. This is replacing the general with whatever. All right, so that's the, hopefully that code should work. Equal to 0, double quotes, semicolon, general. It might look a bit confusing, but essentially that's the way to turn off zeros. There's also another option on the file options that you can use to remove any 0 values, I think. But this is good enough. We will move on. So we'll say this is category, that is activity, start, end. Now let's take the start and end and quickly format them as date as well, so that this is showing up as date. This kind of breaks the purpose of doing the 0 thing, but we will have to come back and apply that again. And then once these are there, we will then be able to construct our Gantt chart here. The traditional way of doing a Gantt chart in Excel is you just select a bunch of columns, make them narrow, and then highlight them in green or yellow or orange color, depending on whether the activity is happening on those dates or not. Now this might again look very, very complicated, but it's not really complicated at all. So we'll go back to the calculations here. For a quick second, we are just gonna make some additional calculations so we know what we can do. So we'll just say Gantt start date. And this would be the date on which our output Gantt chart shall begin. This could be like a date that you can just type in. For example, I want to see everything from 1 April 2021. Alternatively, you could also write a formula here. So for example, I want to start it as per my data. So I can simply say minimum of activities table start date. So this will basically be the earliest start date as well. So it would go from 1 March. Another technique that I normally use, and this is more relevant, is take the today's date and go back by 14 days or something. So we are only looking at the immediate past and in the next several weeks. So let's go with this approach, because then our Gantt chart will look more at present rather than going all the way back to March. So we got this, and I'll use my name box to quickly name this as start date. And I can come back here in the first cell here. I'll simply say, get me the start date. So that will give you a date. And then this one is +1, so that the next day will come up. And then we'll simply drag this for a few times. So I got 28 here. I'm just gonna drag it for maybe 3 more. So that is about 32 days. Good enough. But in the actual download file, I've given you 60 days or something like that. So once this is done, I will simply say this equal to that a few more times, so that we have a couple of cells to work with, and just drag these things as well. So all these have dates. Now, first thing that I'll do is select the middle row, Control+1 to format, and go to custom and simply say D to show just the day part of that, so that I'm seeing only the day. For the next set of rows, I will use MMM. So 5 M's just to show the first letter of the month, so that we'll get formatting like this. Okay. The code here is D, the code here is MMMMM. So those are what we are using. And once these are there, we can just select all of these columns and make them narrow enough so that we can see everything in one full screen. Okay. Remember that I'm zoomed out to 190%, so it's kind of looks a bit wacky, but will be helpful. All right, let me just quickly tune into the chat window just to understand what is happening. Obviously, some of you have suggested some additional ways of formatting the data, which is good. Again, when you're both talking and doing, it's very easy to sometimes forget the right combination and all of that. And all right. Yeah, no other, there's a question, won't that run June and July together as J? So this is an interesting question. The 5M codes, wouldn't that run June and July together as J? Obviously it does, same as April and August as well, but they're not together, but this is going to happen. But it is just kind of like an indication. It so happens that calendars and dates are something that everybody is familiar with, so you don't really need to excessively spell that out. There are other techniques that you could use. For example, if you would like to make it spelled out, what you could do is you could kind of take 3 cells and merge them together and use the code MMM and then drag those out. So every 3 cells will list one month name, but it can also get repetitive. So pick and choose what you want, and it a lot depends on how big your project is. If you're doing something in a month or 2 months time frame, then this should do. But if you're doing it something that goes out for 6 years, then you need to think through what is the right way of presenting this. All right, I'll switch back to my thing. And so once these are there, we will then need to figure out a formula that will kind of print 1 or 0 or 2 or 5 or 7, whatever we want in the cells. Then we could then apply conditional formatting. It's not necessary to write a formula here. We could kind of directly write the rule in the conditional formatting. But from an explanation perspective, I find that it's easier if I actually write the formula in the cell and print the numbers, because then turning the color becomes a second thing, and it's very easy to connect those dots. So let's go with that method. All we want to do is, I'm just going to print some colors here: yellow, blue, green. So what we want to do is, in this cell, I want this to be 1 if the yellow date is in between the blue and the green date. That's pretty much it, right? So that's what we want to do. Otherwise, this needs to be 0. Okay, then all I have to do is select everything. Everywhere there is 1, I just need to highlight it. That's how the Gantt chart will become. So we'll write this formula. You can do any number of formulas here. I'm just going to use a simple AND formula, and then just say this date is before that date. Okay, I'll probably just line to left of this and say, and this date, is it equal to that date? This date, is it on or after that date? Okay, so this is the classic way of checking between condition. You could also use median formula or some other formulas like that. Let's quickly adjust the references. So when I drag this down, these two columns will stay there, but that needs to be locked, as well as when I drag this sideways, that needs to stay on that row, whereas these two needs to be locked into that column. So we'll just make this as $G7. So it locked into $G, and then J $3, $H7, J $3. Now here is a handy trick that some people may or may not know. You can, instead of typing these dollars manually, you can just use the F4 key to cycle through various references. So I'm pressing F4 here, and you can see that Excel kind of adds and moves those dollars away. So whichever works for you, use that. And then that'll give you a value. Now this is going to be true or false rather than 1 or 0, but technically 0 is false and 1 is true. So we could kind of treat them as one way or another. Okay, the value here in the cell, we can't really read it, but if you place your mouse pointer on that, it will say it is true. But you can also kind of do a sense check by expanding the column quickly, making sure this works. So 1 March, 6 June, obviously 17th of April is in between, so that is true. I can quickly fill this down. And then drag it all the way here. So I'll get a bunch of true or false values. They're all there. And then once this is all there, we just keep the whole thing selected. We go to conditional formatting, new rule, and simply say format cells that contain, and then cell value equal to, and then say true. Format, and just pick a color. In the final file that I have given, I went with this kind of a dark slate blue color, but you can choose any color code that you want and just use it. So let's go with something like that, and it will give you a Gantt chart of your data. Of course, it's going to look quite busy as well because all these true false values are also there, but we shall fix that very soon. So once this is done, let's select everything, press Ctrl 1 and use the custom format code of 3 semicolons so that we hide everything, so that only this much information, the highlighting is shown. The cells contain the value, but nothing shows up. So it's kind of like gone, and we only get the Gantt chart. So this is the basic approach, right? There is actually a lot that you can add on top of it, depending on how much you want to show in your Gantt chart and what additional things that you want to apply or tune or whatever. Yeah. So Hemsundar asks, sir, is min activities function available to any raw data? Yes, you can use that. It's not just activities, it's activities of the start date. That's what I'm using there. So yeah, you want to, but anyhow, we are not really using that. We are using today minus 14 because that way the Gantt will stay relevant and it will kind of move every day. So you're always in focus and in that. All right, going back, there's actually another discussion happening about weekends and non-working days and whatnot. It's up to you how you want to deal with that. If you want to show a realistic scale of the time that is gone while the project is happening, then probably using continuous days is good. But if you want to, just consider 5-day working week or something, then you can use a different type of formula. So rather than saying J3 plus 1, you could use workday of the previous day, comma 1. what this does is it will only add a day if it's working day. So if it is Friday, then the next working day will be Monday, and then it will continue like that. I find that this is somewhat confusing, and because there is also holidays on work days, like there could be a national holiday on a Monday, so that will be non-working, but it will still show up in the Gantt chart. And if you remove that, then everything will be out of line, and it would be hard to keep track of what's going on. So it's best to make it easy and then see what your stakeholders prefer and accordingly modify that. All right, so now that that is done, let's add one more thing to this, which is to highlight current day. So we know exactly which point of time we are on. And then that way we kind of get a sense of what things are done and what things are happening and all of that. So to do that, we will just select this much, the Gantt chart along with the dates, and then add a conditional formatting rule. In the rule here, I'm saying, so what we want to do is we want to use the row number 3 to check whether that is today's day or not. So we'll say $3 is equal to today. So that's the formula. So $3 is equal to today. And then we want to kind of fill that up with yellow color or some other color that contrasts with our rest of the Gantt chart, and that will highlight. Now, most of you are on April 30th, but I am already on May 1st because New Zealand is in future. So here I got my thing. Now, you may prefer it this way, but if you want to, for example, see the blue color rather than the yellow color where that is there, then what you could do is you could go to manage rules. You can see that there are 2 rules at play. Now the rule on the top will sit on the higher layer. So yellow color goes on top of blue. You can select that rule and push it down using that down button, so that it will only be yellow if there is no other color or formatting rule dictating what should happen to the cell. So this way it kind of goes back. All good. So our Gantt chart is working, and the best thing is this is not just a simple Gantt chart, it is an interactive one, right? I can click on a team and I can see what's happening for that team. Remember, everything comes from the pivot table. So when I drill down into the team, I'm seeing what's happening for that team, and it works nice and well. Of course, there is this issue of these dates turning up as zeros because our formatting only is working there, not here. So we need to do the same thing for this. So I'm just going to quickly adjust that. So that those things are gone back, and now I got a nice little interactive Gantt chart that I can use to see what's happening by my team, or I can clear it so that I'm looking at everybody's values. And it will automatically move this thing as well as the whole thing kind of slides every day because we have linked it to the today formula. So once this is done, let's make it nice and pretty. The first thing that I want to do is I want to get rid of all this extra highlighting that we have done for the sake of explaining this. And then here I want to add the percentage done as well. I want to see what percent of the activity is done. So here I can use any of the other formulas. We could have alternatively made the percentage done as part of the pivot itself. It's up to you how you want to do. In the downloaded file I've provided to you with a lookup formula. So I'm just going to replicate that X lookup of this value. Now the activity will always be in column F. So if it is E, then we don't need to do that. So here what we could do is we can write if formula if, or maybe we'll do it like this, X lookup on this activities of percentage done. And if not found, then we simply want blank there, so that it will give me the percentage completion where there is available, but for the higher levels, it will be blank. So this will also be blank. So once this is done, we select all of this, apply percentage formatting, and let's add a data bar so we can kind of see what is going on by individual activities, which are 100% done and which are not. The default setup itself is fine, but I'm just going to customize this rule a bit so that it looks better. So to customize, I'll say minimum is a number 0 and maximum is 1.5, so that it will go, the 100% will only fill up to 60, 2/3 of the cell, and that will give me space to print that label as well. And then apply, so that this is how that would look. And then I can kind of shrink this a little bit. It just so when you make it 100%, it does look reasonably all right. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to select all of these, press Ctrl+1, go to the alignment and use the shrink to fit option so that the values actually appear in the cell. Alternatively, you can also just make the font smaller, whichever works best for you, choose that, and then that will display those. Then let's make this bold, and let's select this column itself and make that bold so that the categories are highlighted. Let's select all of this and let's add our slate coloring there and white color there so that that is kind of standing out. And finally, let's select all of this and apply horizontal borders so that there's borders around. And now if I turn off my grid lines, I'll see a nice and pretty Gantt chart showing my information in a very clear manner. Okay, there is so much more that you could do with this, but I find that a lot really boils down to what is it that you are trying to present and how your audience want to use that. So go and try variations. So let's switch back to the one that I have completed, and you can see that we are nearly similar. There are some subtle variations in the final one because I had more time to polish this, whereas here I'm trying to both explain and do it same time. So for example, here what I've done is for the category level stuff, I've put a different color so that the focus is on these. So this is done with a different if formula rather than a simple if formula. I'm printing 0, 1 or 2 and based on that I'm changing the conditional formatting rule. I've also added an extra rule here to highlight the category level rows so that they're easy to spot. And I've added the owner of the activity as well so we can see their names. And I've added an extra column here where I'm printing a tick mark whenever the activity is 100% complete. So you can examine these formulas to see how that is done. But it's not really far. We've kind of come 90% of the way. So the other little things are very, very easy to add. Okay, so this is my Gantt chart that is interactive. All right, let's move on and let us talk about the progress chart. But before that, I'm gonna quickly take a scan at the questions to see what's happening. So Akhil asks, what is the alternate formula for XLOOKUP? You can use the VLOOKUP or the index match formulas, whichever one that you prefer. And yeah. And John T says, will you point out the formulas unique to Excel 365? I should have done that. Sorry about that. But obviously the XLOOKUP is one such formula. And there is going to be a filter formula somewhere down the line, assuming we write it. Otherwise, I'm going to demonstrate it in the final file. Whichever way, that formula is also another one. Sometimes we have two resources performing the tasks. How to go about that in the pivot? This is very interesting. If you have multiple resources assigned to a task, then you need to have another table that kind of maps out task resource assignment as well, and use that in conjunction with these two tables to build your data model. It gets a bit more complicated, so I don't want to dwell too much on that, but it is possible. um, Even if there are two people assigned, we are not drilling down by people, we are only doing this by team, so it shouldn't be too much of a hassle. But if you just want to print the name, then you could also use functions like text join to handle that. So Vijay says, how can we show both planned versus actual? You can, it is just a matter of thinking what additional conditional formatting rules should I be applying and what additional data do I need. Obviously, you need another set of start and end dates. These are actual plan and end date, whereas there could be planned dates, like what we really planned for and what is happening. So if you have those dates, you can go back and add those and then add some extra rules here. So for example, I would add a formula which will, rather than returning true or false, it would return a number of 0, 1, 2, or 3 or something like that, and apply that so that it should work. Yeah, so those are some of the questions. There's more, but I'm just gonna move on for now because they are going in the same direction. Just a quick note about the file, in case you some of you have just tuned in or somehow missed that aspect. You can download the sample file as well as the complete file. The links are in the video description right below, so just click on them and give it a go. Again, big thanks for joining the live class. I hope you're enjoying it. And let us move on to the next set of things, which is making a progress tracking chart. There are different things that you could do, as I showed you in the slideshow. So for example, these are the three charts that I kind of prepared in the final file: a traffic light, a Gantt, a donut progress chart, and a thermometer chart. My preference is to go with something like this because they are very straightforward, easy to read, and there is no distortion of data. They don't take up so much space because they're rectangles. You can size them, you can move them, you can position them, you can make it vertical or horizontal depending on what space you have. But traditionally in the project management world, there is a lot of emphasis on the RAG status, red, amber, green, and people are used to that metaphor that working with a traffic light is also another elegant way of presenting that information. So I'm gonna, because we are already 50 minutes into the stream, I want to make it move. So I will pick the traffic light chart for now and show you how that can be constructed. You can make this kind of one per entire project because the overall project is in green or amber or red. Alternatively, you can kind of make this by module or team or whatever else that you want to do. So here I will add a new worksheet. This one I'm going to call as progress. In the file complete file, you can see that all the three charts are done along with their working. So you can go and practice or kind of break them apart. I will show you the traffic light one because that might be fairly straightforward, but at the same time, there is some surprising or interesting things for you. So we'll start by saying overall progress. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to make this as an input value. So you can type whatever you want, but this number can be a result of a formula as well. For example, you could do a moving average of percentage done, weighted average of percentage done column to calculate that, or you could use your project budget or any other things to figure that out. So for now, we'll just make that as a user input. You just put some number, it will give you the chart, and then you can then figure out a logic to calculate that. So here, what I will do is I will use conditional formatting to color that cell D2 in one of the three colors. Okay, so we'll first say this is equal to that, so that this D2 reflects whatever is here. And here, now what we will do is we will put it into three levels. Anything under 50% is red, 50 to 75 is amber, and more than 75 is green. Okay, maybe more than 85 is green. So we will use that logic. So we'll say new rule and use a formula, and this is the formula will be, well, we don't even need formula based rule, excuse me. New rule, cell value is less than 0.5, then go to format. We'll say this needs to be red color. Okay, this looks completely wonky, but I'm just gonna close the magnifier now. So we will repeat this rule, new rule, and then we'll add cell value is less than 0.75, then that needs to be amber color. And if none of those colors are happening, then it must be green. So we'll just fill it with green color so that we got all the three colors there. Now, if I change this, for example, I make this 45%, I think that rule needs to be under this. So then it will be red. If it is 70%, then it will be amber, 90%, it will be green. Okay, a very, very simple rule that kind of does two things. If both of them are failing, then the cell own color will take over. So once this is done, we will use our old trick of making values disappear. So that the value is gone, but the color is there, right? Once this is there, then I copy that cell, Control C, right click, paste special, and use the linked picture option. Okay, so we are doing copy this cell, Control C, right click anywhere, paste special, linked picture. So we get a picture of green box, right? It's not just a green box, it is a box that refers to that cell D2. Okay, whatever D2 has, this will show. So if D2 has a red color, this box will be red color. If D2 has amber color, that's what it would be. In green, it will be green. But this is not look like a traffic light. It looks like a box. So how do we make it look like the traffic light? Well, very simple. Once this is there, I'm just gonna make it nice and big so we can see what we are working with. Because it is a picture, we can also use the picture format ribbon. Now, unless you're using a very old version of Excel, like Excel 2007 or something, you should be able to do all of these steps very easily in whichever version you're running. So select this, go to picture format, and from here, use the crop options and crop to a circle shape. Okay, so that'll give you a circular shape, but it will be in proportion to the box. So it will give you like an oval shape. Go back to crop again and set the aspect ratio to 1:1. So you'll get a perfect circle. Okay, if the circle has some straight edges on the top or bottom, all you have to do is crop it once again and hold down the control key so that you are control and shift keys, so that you are kind of bringing it slightly down until the whole circle is visible. So now we get a nice little green bubble that is kind of linked to the cell. So I can change this. I can make this 30%, 70%, and 90%, and it will turn. This is our traffic light. All I have to do is make it look like one. So we'll add a nice little rounded rectangle, and let's make it dark, and let's send it backwards so that our traffic light is in the front. And we could probably just do some alignment as well. And finally, you can group this as an object so that you have a traffic light object, which will change based on what that value is. So you can apply some additional things as well. For example, you can select that inner thing and you can apply some picture formatting options, like maybe add a bit of glow around it or whatever, if you feel like doing that, right? It's not necessary, but it's up to you what you want to do. But just keep in mind that all of these options will be available just as regular picture, but this is a dynamic picture. It's called picture link. Some of you already know this, but you may not have thought about using the crop functionality or other things to derive the logic here. So you could make a single traffic light that changes the color, or you could make 3 traffic lights and then turn one of them on, the other 2 off, using a bunch more if formulas. And rather than one cell, you'll have 3 cells, each returning a different color, and only one of them will have the value at any point of time and all of that. Let's just use this because it's simple enough. So that is our progress chart. And you can also do these other things, which is you can create something like that or that. In the full complete file, just examine how these are happening. There is an input value and the light color is generated, and then there's a few other bits and bobs that will help me with these charts. I plan to make a YouTube video explaining how to make this chart as well as that, but there are some videos on YouTube already that talk about these things. So feel free to go and explore them, or if you really enjoy the way I explain, you can wait for me to come back and tell you how to do that in some time. Anyhow, so that is our traffic light. Okay, so we are now 2 done, and the third one is probably the easiest one, making a tracker. Now there are various ways in which you can create trackers within Excel, but this is something that I find very straightforward one. What we have is a simple table that has data like an issue or a risk or something, and then it gets assigned to a person, priority, dates like that. So you could just make simple bare bones one like that, but I can assign an activity to myself and the file wouldn't stop. Whereas what you could do is you can say these things can only be assigned to one of the team members. So to fix that, to fix that, what you have to do is you select the column, go to data validation, and set up a validation criteria. So the validation will be a list that is all the people. So then what happens is every cell will show a little drop down that says these are the people available for you to pick. So it wouldn't really let Chandu take part in the project because I'm not a member of that team. I'm just having a quick scan of the chat and comment section just to see what is happening there. Yeah. So there seems to be some interest in what should happen if there is, for example, actual versus planned, like, you got 2 bunch of values and you want to compare and whatnot. You can do that. It's not really very tricky either. All you got to do is you have to think what would work best. For example, in a progress kind of a situation, this is really suitable for showing one value. So if I want to show 2 sets, like what is happening and what was planned or whatever, then this is not the ideal chart. You need to see some other charts. So here in the sample files page, I've actually provided a link on few other variations. Feel free to take a look at them to get some inspiration and ideas. For example, here is one. It says budget versus actual, but you can apply this instead of money. You can apply this for a project management kind of a thing, where it shows how to demonstrate something like this, where you got 2 things and under and over are there. It's a very, very detailed tutorial. I highly recommend that you read it up and download the file and give it a go. So that's that. And then there is actually a project portfolio dashboard. This is a tutorial, but it is also part of a package that I sell. So while you're not obligated to purchase anything from me or anything like that, you can enjoy the live stream as it is. If you are looking for creating something more advanced, like you want to track plan versus actual and whatnot, this could be this could give you some inspiration and ideas. It's a ready to use template, so you can download it and directly plug your values or break it apart, see all the formulas and logic, and then take that and use it for somewhere else in your work situation. So this has that kind of a plan or actual or both variations available. And there's a video here that kind of walks through that. So check it out. All of those are linked on the EPM files page where you might have downloaded the workbook from. Let's go back to Excel. And as I'm explaining, the issue tracker is something that is by far the simplest in this live stream. But that's also because I've kind of tried to keep it fast paced. So we've covered some good ideas, and now we're going to see something that is bare bones, but at the same time, very simple for all of us. I just want to remind everybody that in the chat window, keep it really simple, and just just ask questions or say hello or interact rather than being rude to each other. Thank you so much. So here is an interesting question. For example, how to go with assigned as a TBD or miscellaneous. It is you could do this. It's not directly possible with the data validation alone. What you may want to do is you need to then create a new list of persons along with TBD or multiple or other as an option. So instead of pointing to this list, what I would probably do is I'll make a new list somewhere else, and that would be just all of these people, but the number one row would be TBD, and then select that as my source of the data validation. So every time I select, I will also have a TBD option. You could also change the data validation rule by writing some complex formula there that will do that, but this might be easier that way. So I got my issue tracker where I got my date open, date closed, etc. I can do some more things here using conditional formatting. For example, I can any issue that is closed, I can highlight that in a dull color so it doesn't really look as important as rest of it. All we have to do is if this column has a date, then we need to just apply a rule that kind of changes the color of the entire row, something like that. So that is the issue tracker. Now let's go and see how all of these three concepts come together to make a project dashboard. Okay, so for the dashboard part, I think it would be best if I actually go back to the full file and tell you how this has come up rather than make it from scratch, because it's gonna be a while to doing a lot of repetitive formatting and things like that. So it would be way easier if I just walk through various bits and explain how they are generated. So to create the dashboard, what I did is I first, anytime you're making a dashboard, you don't really jump into it. So what I did is I kind of, I hope you can actually see it. So I made a sketch of what my dashboard should look like. So that's my notepad here, and usually this is the most preferred and recommended way of doing these kind of things, because then you will have clarity of what you are trying to achieve, how it should look on the overview, and where everything is laid out and what happens here, what happens there, and all of that. So I highly recommend that anytime you're making any kind of dashboard, whether it's a project dashboard or sales dashboard or business HR, whatever may be the case, try to start off by thinking of what are the important information that my users would want to see, and then make a sketch so that you kind of know where you're going. Okay, enough of that. So I made a sketch. The sketch was very, very rough, and then from that I kind of elaborated and created. My challenge is twofold: not only to showcase the project progress as a dashboard, but also to um, kind of fit it into the live stream format where I have limited time and limited ideas to play with, right? We're not really doing 75 things here. We got a Gantt chart, we got a progress chart, and we got an issue tracker. So whatever dashboard is going to be created, that needs to fit into that 3 or 4 items. So that's what I went with. But in a real life situation, you may want to add few more things or elaborate certain aspects depending on what your users are caring about. Okay, so the let's quickly walk through the dashboard, and then I'll go and explain some of the things. There are a couple of interesting things here. For example, this box here will show me which activities are upcoming. So these are the ones that haven't happened yet, and I can see the activities, or I can see the issues as well. So these are the issues that are still not closed, and then it will only show me the 10 issues that are not closed and open the oldest. And I can switch this or that, and I can see the activities that are there. And then this will give me a view of all our team members, how many activities they are assigned to, and how many issues they are assigned to. So we know exactly what is their workload looking like. And for example, Barbara Gordon seems to be overworked, whereas James Gordon, Joker, and these people, they have way more issues than others. So it kind of gives you a sense of that workload as well, right? And the top part here is just overall metrics, and here my project plan has the slicer built into this, so I can click on the slicer and I can see by an individual team or the overall thing. So we already know various moving components, like how does that come up, that. So this is just a group. All I did is I added a small little icon of the traffic light on the corner to kind of visually indicate that is the overall status. So that, and then I added the word status at the bottom. You could, for example, bring in the percentage and put that here. But as long as it's green, you're not really overly caring about what is going wrong. So maybe adding percentage at red or amber levels would be better than adding it for all colors. How many days are left to go? This is another interesting and important metric. So you could put that. To calculate how many days are left to go, all we have to do is we can go to the calculation tab, and from here I can just do some extra calculations. So this is what I've done here. You can examine these formulas if you're running Excel 2016 or older version. Some of these formulas need to change. I'll explain to you as we kind of examine these. So that's my project end date, which is the maximum end date of all the activities, and the days left is that minus today. So that's 39 days left, and that's what is shown on the dashboard. I also calculated the effort, which is very interesting. I've not really used it in the output, but effort is another thing that you could calculate. So this is kind of very crude, but I find this is very more indicative than number of days left. So the effort is, this is how I calculated. So it starts on 1 March and ends on 4 March. So I counted that as 4 units of effort, right? Because this minus that is 4, whereas this minus that is 10 units of effort or 11 units of effort, depending on how you're calculating that. So each activity done on each day is 1 day worked on the project. So total effort is all the sums of this minus that. So that's how that effort is calculated. This is an array formula. So in an older version of Excel, you need to press Control Shift Enter. But in Excel 365, you can just type it and it'll work. And then completed effort is whatever this minus that multiplied by percentage done will be completed effort, and balance is the difference between these two. So you could see that we are 50% done in the project, about 50% done. So that is how some of these things are calculated. The number of issues that are there, this is the total number of issues, count of all the issues in the last 7 days. This is how many. It's a count ifs formula that just looks at today's date minus 7 and then up to today how many issues have been opened. And active issues are any issue that has no closing date, so that means it is still active. And that is that. And I've further broken it down by high and low priority issues. So 10 of these are high priority, 13 are low priority. So if you want to, for example, 23 active issues and add a small pie chart here that kind of breaks it down by high and low, you could use that numbers there. So this is how I initially planned, but I kind of had to drop some of those ideas as I was making the file, just to make sure that it is in a manageable thing that can be explained as well. Upcoming activities and active tasks. The idea here is just to show only 10 activities. So here I'm using a fairly complicated dynamic array function. This and this are not going to work in Excel 2016 or older versions. But this is basically, some of you might have attended my live stream back in, so what is this now, April, March, February, where we talked about dynamic array formulas. And this one is using one of those techniques to filter the upcoming activities. It does look a bit funny though, so I'll have to examine this again, because it's showing me what activities are going to happen in June, whereas nothing about May is being shown. So yeah, I think it's doing something strange here. All right. And then active tasks are a filtered list of the tasks that are not closed, but just showing the 10 tasks. So even if there are more, it will only show me the 10 tasks. So once these and that are there, then what I'm doing is, if the user says 1, which is what that little form control does, you can select this or that and it will give me. So if I select activities, that thing, this box will be 1. Whereas if I select issues, that box will be 2. So whatever user is selecting, based on that, I'm using a if formula to pick either this or that and then sending it to the dashboard. I just want to say thanks to Reginald for a super sticker. Thanks, bro. And that is kind of sending those values. And then this, our team data, is just another pivot table that shows person's name, how many activities are there, how many issues are there, because the tables are all linked. So it'll be very easy for us to kind of take data from person's table, activity and issues and show that in one pivot table like this. So all of this is the moving parts behind the scenes, right? So once this is all set up, then I put everything here and we start bringing, so this will give me that box and that box, and all of these are there. I've added some icons. But what about the Gantt chart? Well, the Gantt chart is actually created here, and then I selected only a portion of the Gantt chart. Let's just say that much, copied it, right click, paste special, linked picture. So I get a picture of the Gantt chart here. So this is, I then kind of moved this to the dashboard and resized it. So this is not the real Gantt chart. It is actually a picture, a snapshot, so that the original one is here. So we could then put a hyperlink or something. So if you click on that, it'll take you to the Gantt chart. Now the other interesting thing could be, how did the slicer kind of merge into the header aspect here? Because it doesn't look like a separate thing. And this can be done in a couple of very easily. All we have to do is, let's add a team slicer. So this is how the default slicer is going to look like. What you will do is, you'll go I've already created a style here. You can see that that's a slicer style that I'm using. It has the same color as my header, and then the buttons are showing like this. But to create this, you would have the slicer and then you right click, duplicate to create a new duplicate slicer. We can call this as slicer for my dashboard or whatever you want, and then apply some formatting on this. It is a fairly mundane thing, but you just select whole slicer, format. I want no border. I want this to have same color as my header, and then selected item with data. I want that to have bold formatting. I want it to have maybe that color. Unselected item with data. I don't want any border. I don't want any fill, and I want it to be regular. Okay. So once you have created that, you can apply that. This will give you a slicer like that, and then right click, slicer settings, and just display header, turn it off. So now there is no header, it's just a bunch of buttons, and I can select this. I can go to slicer, make it into 2 columns so that the buttons appear next to each other rather than like that, and then just move it to the dashboard. So that's pretty much how that bit is done. Once this is there, we just position it and add a nice little label right next to it, and all of that will work very, very well. I'm just reading the questions now. So maybe also show tasks which are overdue. You can, it's all a matter of adding some extra logic into your Gantt chart mechanism, especially if you're doing it for tasks. If you want to do it like which tasks are overdue, maybe highlight them. Then, for example, we need to define what is overdue really mean. So is it an activity that has 0% done, but the date start is before today? So that means it must have begun, but there is no progress made on it. Or is it an activity that has an end date that was before today, but has percentage done that is less than 100%? So there are various ways of thinking about this problem. So think about it, and based on that, write the necessary conditional formatting rules. Some of these rules can get a bit long-winded. So what I recommend is you first figure out in a cell through a simple formula what logic you need to write to get 1 or 0 or true or false to highlight. And once that formula is working as per your needs, then you can copy that formula, paste it into conditional formatting, tweak it, and it should work. Okay, so for example, I'm gonna just quickly show, because this is an interesting question. I want to show which activities are, let's say, they should have started as of today, which is 1 May for New Zealand, but they haven't started. So we can select all of these. Maybe let's not clutter that side. Let's select this much. So we'll select this much, and we'll add a new rule. And then again, as I said, you don't want to write the rules directly here because this can get a bit painful, and the editing experience here is very real bad. So you ideally want to write it in a cell, test it out, and then write. But I'm just going to try it here. So the condition that we are looking for is start date here in the column F needs to be before today, and column H needs to be 0%. So end of $F11 is less than today, and then percentage done is in H11, so the end of H11 is equal to 0. Okay, so this is if that's the case, then what we want to do is Let's not make a, let's just change the font color to red. We'll see if it gets too red, then probably has some. Okay, so that is the rule, but I'm wondering why it doesn't work. Anyhow, we'll have to come back to that because I don't want to waste your time just exploring that. But that could be the basic format. Maybe I'm not thinking it straight. I know you mentioned this video will not be recorded, but have you ever changed your? There are quite a few ideas which are presented at a fast pace. So this might sound a bit silly, but there is no such thing as recording or anything. It's all streamed on the YouTube anyway. And if you are already watching it on YouTube, which is the case for most of you, you know which page or which video link you're watching. All you have to do is like the video and it will be in your liked videos list. So you can always go back and replay the stream and watch that. There is no, when I say no recording, the idea is it is not going to be made available to people who are not part of the stream. So that's what I mean. So you come in, you join for the session, you stay for some time, you enjoy the session, and then you're more than welcome to come back and watch the video. I'm not going to delete it or anything. It's just it makes it easy for me because otherwise there is always an expectation that I would record and share that, and that's just too much hassle for me as well. So that's all. Yes, Sucheta says it might be because there's no overdue activities on this which have not started on your list. Well, that could be just the rand between function. In real life projects, there is never a situation like this. There are always overdue activities, right? So there is a popular saying about project management. It goes like this. The first 90% of your project takes 90% of the time, and the last 10% takes 90% of the time. So that's pretty much what happens in every project. I'll have to examine the formula again, but it could be right. You never know. Sherry says, Chandu, you're the best. Been a fan for 10 plus years. I spend a lot of time on your blog. I have a learn something new goal for myself. Thanks for offering these free masterclasses. Big thank you, Sherry. Thank you so much for following me for 10 plus years. Wow. That means you probably know all about my children and like, because I would post about them and all of the other things on the blog all the time. So, it's really good to always hear from people who have been with me for such a long time. Thank you. Kishore says, I'm here from Japan at 0230 hours, so it's 2:30 in the midnight. Thanks, brother. Sorry, it's late. I got some people from Australia reaching out to me this time around, and then they were like quite furious. Oh man, because New Zealand it's 4 a.m. right? Australia is 2 hours behind, so it's 2 a.m. for them. They were like, we can't attend a stream at 2 a.m. So I'm hoping for my May stream, the next month one, I'll move it slightly around so there's more opportunity for people from other parts of the world to tune in, and maybe it'll make my life simple, right? I could probably have a good night's sleep and come in refreshed for the thing. Yeah, so Kimball says, I use Excel for my day to day, but without slicers, connected tables, etc., many parts of this file won't work. Fortunately, I have access to Windows version of Excel as well. Thanks, Kimball. I think maybe I'm wrong, but Excel 365 for Mac should have support for data model. So maybe give it a try. I'm not really sure exactly which version you're using. I don't have a Mac, so I can't really tell you whether it does or not. But yeah. Lidria Rivera says, Chandu, thank you for this awesome video. Thank you so much, Lidria, for tuning in and enjoying this as well. Anne says, I'm not very advanced and can't always follow everything covered, but I always learn something new, build my knowledge, and go away inspired to keep going. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anne. I know that some of the topics can be a little advanced, but that's the intention for my masterclass live streams anyway. I would love to maybe pick different topics. I mean, this topic is a bit, I would say it's somewhere between intermediate and advanced because I'm not really explained how to add a conditional formatting rule, right? I just jumped into it and did that. Some of the other things I've kind of left to viewers' imagination rather than going into detail. But maybe I will try to sample different topics. Every month around second or third week, I'm running a poll on my channel, just asking people what is it that you want to hear. So if you got some suggestions, feel free to post them there, or drop me an email, and I'm happy to consider that and tune my topics. But I really want to offer something that is of great value as well as fun and interesting, and pushes people a little forward. So I hope you're enjoying that. Sucheta sends in a super sticker as well. Thank you so much, Sucheta. I really appreciate your support. And we got a couple of people tuning in from Bangalore and another one from India. Venkatraman says, you're the best. I always look forward to live sessions from you. Thank you so much, Venkataraman, and I really appreciate tuning in. I know it's kind of getting late in India, but probably on a Friday evening, you're out late anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Vijay Lakshmi says, I'm from India. It's 11 p.m., but I am awake to hear you out. Yes, this masterclass, all important ideas. Thank you, Vijay Lakshmi. And George Costa sends in a super sticker as well. Thank you, George. Thank you so much for your support and love for chandu.org. Sorry, there's a question here. Anupama says, you mentioned about filter formula sometime before. Can we spend a minute there, please? Sure, Anupama. I will circle back to filter formula in like 5 minutes. I just want to finish other questions so that we have time to see anything that are on topic, but I will come back to this. Bart says, thanks, Chandu. I really appreciate all that you shared with us today and all that you've shared with us in the past. I've learned a lot from you over the years. Thank you so much, Bart. I really enjoy this part of my life wherein I get to share stuff and teach people and provide things that excite me to you as well. So thanks for following me all these years. Nukesh Krishna sends in a super sticker as well. Thank you, Nukesh. Rose says, an awesome session. Thanks, Chandu. Loved the dashboard. Big thanks to you, Rose, as well. In fact, as I prepared this dashboard, I kind of fell in love with this as well. It was quite simple, but at the same time, it does tell the story of what's happening in the project. And I haven't actually made a project dashboard in such a long time. So I was like, man, I should do something that will be useful for the live stream, but at the same time I could probably take that and maybe make it into another video or tutorial or a blog post or something as well. So I'm gonna actually hopefully, it's a big commitment to explain things like dashboards in either video or blog post because they take up quite a bit of energy and effort, but I would love to get more into the design of this and how the construction, and kind of take the live stream but maybe shrink it down by 50% and do that. So hopefully that happens. Lauren Bisto says, for some reason I don't have relationships in my Excel. Any tips on how to get this? So I assume you're using probably a very old version of Excel. Otherwise, it could be something else. So it would be called relationships. Even if it's not called relationships, it's the button that looks like three things are connected together. So that's the button that you're looking for. Maybe I'll zoom this here so you could see. It would be in the data tools area. So yeah, give it a try and then let me know if you still don't see it. And Bart Cotter sends in a sticker, $50. Big thanks, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And Rose sends in a super sticker as well. Thank you, Rose. And Anne Carol as well. Thank you, Anne. And let me see. DB Offline says, I'm following your blog since past 12 plus years. Pointy head, Delbert. Man, that is like a long time, right? Isn't it? The pointy head Delbert was like in another era. Nowadays, I don't even think about it, but it is part of my life, right? It was a big part of my life. And some of you may not know this, but I used to call my website as Pointy Head Delbert. And this is true story, right? So one day I get an email from Scott Adams, the creator of Delbert, saying he is no longer, I mean, he doesn't approve me of using his brand names like Delbert in a website. Of course, he's very nice. He asked in a gentle way, and I was like, okay, this makes no sense, right? I don't need to. I shouldn't be using anybody else's trademark in my website. So I immediately took it out and I renamed it as Chandu.org, which was probably the best decision of my life. Because everybody calls me Chandu anyway, so there's easier for me to just use that name. Anyhow, so Kevin says, can I make this project from Excel web version? You should definitely try that, Kevin. I think that is a fantastic idea. The only thing that I'd imagine not working is the form control here, but you may want to replace that with the data validation, and everything else should work. I have not tested the picture link compatibility, but I hope they work because they are just pictures, so hopefully they should. But the slicers work, the relationship should work, and everything else should or hopefully work. Otherwise, even if the relationships don't work, you could figure out another way of calculating what we are doing here by using formulas or some other lookups or something like that. All right. We got quite a few people that are long-time fans, like Navya, who says, I've been following you for 10 years. I wish I could borrow your brain for my work. Well, you have the next best thing, my website and YouTube channel, which is basically a dump of my brain. So feel free to borrow ideas and concepts from there. All right. Let's keep the chatter going in the chat window. What I want to do is I want to quickly demonstrate the filter function because I'm using this in the file that I provided to you. So it makes sense that I kind of explain it briefly, at least, if not in greater detail. I'll do it in the other file. So what filter function does is it kind of lets you filter your data by specifying conditions, and you can get the output as a formula. So you're not manually filtering. So you're not saying category is deployment, show me all the activities. Instead, what you're doing is you're writing a formula that will return the values. So I'll show you a basic syntax here, and then we'll do one or two advanced cases. So filter all activities that let's say started after, and then we'll put a date here, just like an input date. So I'm gonna say 30 April 2021. So I want to see all the activities that have started after, that have start date after 30 April. So we can use the filter function like this filter. Remember, this function only works in Excel to the 365. So filter, and then you specify the table that you want to filter. My table is activities, and activities start date is greater than or greater than that, right? And then it'll give you that table. It'll just give the table data as a formula result, so all the dates will appear as numbers and whatnot, and those are the things. Now let's add a little more thing to it. So for example, I want to see all the activities started after this and by assigned to Joker. Okay, so here instead of simply doing that, I can use star to add conditions, and then I can say activities owner is equal to this. And then I'm seeing all the activities that are yet to begin and assigned to Joker. Now this is giving me the full table. If I want to, for example, just see the activity numbers alone, I can say activity, and that'll just show me those 3 items. So I'm using the filter function like that, but in a few more variations of that, just to get upcoming activities list, and that will that is what is happening there. This video or the stream is not about filter or other things. So what I recommend is when you finish with this, go back to my channel. There is actually a stream that I did in February that talks about dynamic array formulas. You can see that in the past live streams section of my channel. The other option is there is also a video that I published back some time ago called Dynamic Array Formulas. So you could look at that up and watch that. So those are good places for you to learn. When I finish publishing everything, I'll add a cart in the video, so it'll show up, and maybe put that information in the video description as well. Yeah, Ron says it won't be possible in Excel Online. It's a very dumb version. You could probably set up it in desktop and see most one. Yeah, this is what I meant, Ron. I didn't mean like creating the whole thing on Excel Online. That would be very painful and elaborate process. So I would create everything here, and when I finish that, I'll simply say share to kind of put it onto my OneDrive and then see it on Excel Online. So yeah, give it a try and let me know in the comments how it goes. All right, I'm just gonna hang around for a few, maybe another 10 minutes to see what kind of questions are coming up. But I just want to say a big thanks to everybody who's tuned in today and supported me by sharing your lovely comments and telling me how much you appreciate the work that I'm doing. Thank you so much. And of course, big thanks to all the people who are sending in super stickers or super chat messages to share their love and enthusiasm for Chendu.org. So thank you so much, everyone. It is a pleasure and fun to do it. As I said early on in the stream, I could barely sleep last night because I was quite excited about this one. For one, this project management topic is very close to my heart. This is where I got my first break early on in my career. I started working as a business analyst with a technology company back in 2006, and I was kind of put into thick of project management activities very early on. So I would be doing a lot of this kind of stuff, building dashboards and reports and telling people how things are going. And that is where I really learned Excel and saw the true power and the ability to shape and change my career. So whenever I talk about project management, I'm excited, especially from the Excel point of view. Of course, I also know that there are other tools that are more competitive and probably easier to do things rather than Excel. But I find that in many situations, people kind of fall back to Excel for creating things. So this is an excellent platform to learn and sharpen your skills as well. John says, I would get access to relationships by typing the word, what do you want to do? So that could be a thing as well, right? Excel has a search box somewhere. Oh, yeah, here. You can just type relationships and probably that'll open up the relevant button. It might have been called something else in your version of Excel. Um, Sherry says, we're all better in Excel. Thanks to you, Chandu. Can't wait for your next live. Thank you so much, Sherry. It was fun interacting and sharing the information with all of you. And yeah, I look forward to the next one as well. Reginald says, thanks, Chandu. This was an excellent session as always. Thank you, Reginald. Rajender says, I'm a big fan from India. Learned lots of things and tricks from your site. Thanks, Rajender. Now, Muniswaran asks, what is the difference between Pert chart and CPM? Oh man, I haven't heard these words since a long time. I remember learning about this back in, I want to say it's my engineering days, so that's probably like the last century. I don't really know anymore, but I think they kind of highlight differences in calculating certain dates and critical path elements of the data. So yeah, I'm not the right person to talk. Probably you can search up online for that kind of information. Shiraz Alam says, great session, love from Pakistan. Thank you, Shiraz. Thank you so much for enjoying this. Anupama says, thank you so much for sharing everything what you have. You're one of those people who make me love Excel more every day. Thank you, Anupama. I'm glad you are enjoying this and doing more at your work by picking up all the skills. Okay. So just a quick reminder: when you finish watching, if you want to grab the files, you can always look at the video description. Both the blank data file as well as the completed file are already there. You can download them. But I'm gonna provide a third file just in case you want to see what I did in the stream, because I uploaded those before the stream began. That would be this file that you're seeing on the screen here. So I'm gonna link this up and put that as well in the same page, but that's gonna happen maybe a few hours down the line. So you can come back to that, and you can also rewatch parts of this or the whole thing again if you feel like, by just bookmarking the YouTube page or opening the email that I sent you or the YouTube must have sent you when you signed up for the event, and going to that thing, because it would be there. Um, so that is all for now. I really hope you've all enjoyed this, and from the comments and everything, I think things were going fine, and hopefully there were not too many technical disruptions. I heard some comments saying they are not having proper reception, or the video was a bit choppy. So hopefully that's not the case, and you did have good time watching, and feel free to play it back and enjoy, and yeah, have a great good weekend. I'm probably gonna go down and pet my dog, and just maybe continue my sleep, or or just relax for a bit. So that's sorry, Rose says, where is the second link, please? Can't see it in the description. There is only one link. If you click on that, that will take you to this page, which has both the files. So it's way easier than putting two links there. So yeah, you click on that link, you'll go this page. It has the files, it has some additional materials in case you are trying to learn other concepts of doing Gantt charts and whatnot, and it has a link to my project management templates that I sell, which is some of you know it, some of you might have bought them already, but in case you don't want to spend time creating things in Excel like that, you can get a set of templates that I built quite a while ago, but they kind of still work today. So feel free to get a copy and simplify your work life. Yeah, but it's not necessary to buy them, but if you feel like, you can always go and buy them. So that's the files, and I will add the third link underneath, which will be the session files. So this is Eric Kildes sends in a super sticker as well. Thank you so much, Eric. I am thankful for all your support and love. Sherry says, take a picture of your family with the dog for your blog. You earned that nap. Well, I do have a picture of me there. I don't want to show it, but I'll just somewhere down here, I think. Oh, sorry, it's not. Excel is not here. By the way, some of you know it, some of you don't, but our dog is called Excel. Every time we take her for a walk to the nearby path, some people ask, like, what's the name of the dog? And when I say Excel, they're like, oh, is it like spreadsheets? And they're always like, oh. In fact, I thought I could show her to you because she was actually sleeping right here before the stream began, but she decided to wander off and go downstairs and take a nap in the couch. So maybe next time around I'll show her. Okay, so that is it for me for now. I hope everything went really well, and let me know if you have any last questions. Otherwise, probably in 20 seconds, I'll turn off this stream. It's already an hour and 50 minutes. So big thanks. We had, at some point, we had 500 people tune in, but it is amazing and humbling to see that even at this point of the stream, people are still watching and enjoying it. So thank you so much. And yeah, enjoy. Have a good weekend. And that's a wrap. All right, bye-bye. And I'll see you all again in the next stream at the end of May. As I said, if you have got any good suggestions for a topic or something that you would like to explore a bit more, either drop me an email, leave a comment on this video, or wait for the poll that happens at the second, third week of May, and tell me what you would like to hear. And I would love to come up with and share those topics with you all. That is all. Bye bye, and enjoy your weekend. Bye.